Hi there. Welcome to Craft with Kathie. I am going to do a t-shirt and I am going to insert this ink mat. I think I showed you my little trick. I just turn the t-shirt inside out, apply the ink mat, and then turn it right side out before I get started. An ink mat is used as a barrier so that when we use ink on fabric or on something that is porous, that it doesn't go through to the back side. I wouldn't want to ink the shirt and end up with my design seeping through to the back of the tee instead of the front, or vice versa, depending upon what I'm doing, right? So I'm going to just smooth this out a little bit. Remember I said there's two primary mediums that we use, ink and paste. Our paste is used for signs or something that's not going to be washed. Our ink is used on something that will be washed repeatedly, so I'm going to be using it on this t-shirt. This is half of our ink mat. We have an ink mat that's like 17 inches by 23, and I just cut this in half because it fits nicely in the shirt that way. This might be a little bit longer. I wonder what I did. Maybe I did something shorter with the other part of it. Anyway, just press it down. It'll stick to the fabric. It'll keep the fabric nice and taut where you apply the ink. And it just makes things a lot easier. If you do not have an ink mat, just go ahead and put a piece of cardboard as a barrier between your layers of fabric. Sinking, that's not the right word, seeping through to the back. Oh, brain freeze, what could I say? Coming at you from the suburbs west of Chicago in the middle of the Summerbration launch, and just wanted to show you another project using one of these brand new transfers that just debuted today. Just saw another posting from someone about the pucker. If you want that pucker paste, check it out. Get it now because it doesn't look like it's going to be. Color of the month is while supplies last. So once it's gone, it's gone. Okay. Let me give you a little bit of hint of what my little tricks are for inking on a t-shirt. Generally, if I'm going to put the transfer, it's horizontal like this, I will fold it in half, gently press to find the center, and then I generally would mark that little crease with a pen. Let me see if I have a pen behind me. So I put a little mark on it so I know where the center is, and then I could line up the center with the center of my tag on the shirt. Just makes it easier for me to eyeball it that way. I am not going to fuzz this transfer because it is going on fabric and we want it to stick as snugly as possible, so don't fuzz when you're putting it on fabric. And I'm lining up that little dot. Smoothing it down. I'm going to lift it up and eyeball it so that I could see that it's straight. Okay. And then I'm going to apply my ink. Number one rule when you're using ink instead of paste, make sure your fingers are clean. You do not want to accidentally get some ink on your fingers, and then when you lift the transfer or you rearrange your fabric, you don't want to accidentally get any on the fabric. You don't want any smudges. So I'm going to use my bright white ink. Notice our ink lids are white and our paste lids are black. That's so that we don't accidentally get them mixed up. And I probably need to add a little bit of distilled water to my ink. It's a little bit, it's been around a bit and it looks like it might have thickened up, so let me just thin that down a bit. You never want to use popsicle sticks to stir your paste or your ink because a popsicle stick is made from wood and wood is porous and it will absorb the moisture out of the ink or out of the paste. So we have little plastic stir sticks that are real easy to use and quite economical. And they're reusable, so the little pack will last a long time. And then I'll stir up my ink. I added distilled water because you never want to use tap water. Tap water might actually, the pigment from the paste or from the ink might impact or react with chemicals in tap water, and you might not get the color that you're looking for. So just, if you need to add water, add distilled water. If you don't have any distilled water and you're in a pinch, put your paste or your ink in another container and just add part of it. Don't add it to the whole jar or to the whole packet. Okay. See? Ink on my fingers. Let me clean them off. Fingers are clean. Just going to apply my ink much like I would apply my paste, and just gently go over the silkscreen area. Want to make sure I stay on the transfer. I don't want to accidentally go off of it, because if I go off of it, I'll get a smudge or something on my shirt. If you're a little nervous about getting this close to the end or to the edge, you could use our placement tape to act as a barrier, so that if you do go off the edge, you would end up chalking on the tape instead of on the fabric. And I'm just applying it in a downward motion. I want to make sure I have everything covered. And I'll go over it more than once. I kind of go over a little bit more when I'm inking, just because I want that ink to get the opportunity to soak into the fiber so that I get a nice, crisp, and vibrant image. Because the fabric's porous, I want to give it a chance to get down in there. So I just work it a little bit more than I would with paste. And look at, I've got the coffee beans that I almost missed there, right? Got to go back and do my little coffee beans here. There we go. Now that little, get everything covered up. Now, before I heat set this, I want it to dry. And I could dry it with our little drying tool, or I could just sit it overnight to dry. And that's generally what I do. I just put it aside, let it dry overnight, and then the next day, I heat set it with the heat press. You don't have to have a heat press. You could use an iron. Either or is fine. As soon as I'm finished wiping off all my excess ink here, I will put the ink in the jar, close it up, do a finger check, and I'll tell you how you heat set. And clean my fingers. I do have a little bit of ink here. I need to take the transfer off. Now, think about inking and chalking a little bit different than using a stencil. A lot of times with stenciling, you wait until the paint has dried. With our paste or with our ink, you do not let it dry. As soon as you get the image on and you're finished with squeegeeing it on, you lift up the transfer. Now, don't notice the speckling around coffee, the word coffee. That is actually in the transfer. That's part of the design. Just to kind of highlight it a bit. Sometimes our transfers have intentional distressing just to go along with the distressed look. So here's the deal. Once this is dry, tomorrow I will take and put a sheet of parchment paper over it. I will take out my ink mat. Okay, remember to take your ink mat out. You don't want to apply heat to that because it would melt it. So I'll put a piece of parchment paper over. If I'm using an iron, I will set the iron to whatever my fabric is. I'll look at the shirt to find out what it's made out of. Set my iron to the fabric, and then iron it for 4 minutes continuously, moving the iron. Just keep moving the iron for 4 minutes, okay? When I'm done with that, turn it inside out. Remember, you've taken the mat out beforehand. Turn it inside out, put the parchment paper on the back side of it, and do the same thing with an iron for 4 minutes. If you're using a heat press, set it to the appropriate temperature for your heat press, and press it for 30 seconds. Use the parchment paper as a barrier between. Do the front, turn it inside out, parchment paper, heat press, 30 seconds on the back side. And that's really all there is to it. And once it's heat set, it will never lift, peel, flake, or diminish. You could actually run your finger over it and you won't even feel the difference because it is bonded with the fabric. It has become part of the fabric. Wasn't that simple and easy? If you'd like to add this design to a piece of your clothing, check out the description for this video or drop the word coffee in the comments and I'll send you more information. The Life Without Coffee Depresso transfer is a new offering just released this week, but it is very, very much in demand. So if you'd like this, like I said, comment coffee and I'll send you some information and show you how you can do this on your own. It really is very easy. If you can butter toast, you can chalk or ink. If you're interested in our T-shirt of the Month Club, where you get a specific design and the coordinating inks to go along with it to create your own T-shirt or sweatshirt or jean jacket or whatever, comment T-shirt bundle and I'll send you the info. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you soon.